Up+Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up+Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up+Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Happy Monday. Thank you for being Up+Adam. Hope you had a great weekend. Appreciate you a bunch. My name is Adam Montiel. Winning continues. We're wrapping it up probably today because I got to let the winner know that they're going to Wine Fest. So if you want to get in for Paso Wine Fest, AdamMontiel.com, right off the homepage. Get it. Good luck. Hope you like layers because that heat wave, remember that? That was something a second ago. Well, she packed up and left. Now a low-pressure system digging into NorCal and the Pacific Northwest, dragging cooler air our way, pulling those temps below normal, actually, at least through tomorrow. Expect the highs running 6 to 12 degrees cooler than usual, but by Wednesday, skies start to clear and will be warm into mid-60s, maybe mid-70s. All right, coming up first, have you heard of this sailing with Phoenix? I'm going to talk about this in the beginning of the show before our guest, but if you haven't followed this guy yet on Instagram, his name is Oliver Widger. He's 29 from Oregon, and he just pieced out of corporate life to, he had a job, corporate life for 11 years, had the same job, emptied his 401k, got a sailboat, and is going to sail the world, and is starting from, first time he's doing this, going from Oregon to Hawaii. That is a long, big trip across the Pacific Ocean, and he's just catching people by storm. He's gone completely viral. Talk about him in a second, actually. I want to let you know what else we got going on today. But I definitely want to talk about sailing with Phoenix and Oliver. But our guest later on, and I know we are not a sports show, but when a team like the Golden State Warriors comes along, when you've got a group that rewrites what greatness looks like on and off the court, it is worth a deeper look and a conversation. And even if you haven't watched a minute of the NBA playoffs this year, I haven't either, I'll be honest. Trust me, this conversation goes beyond basketball. It's about loyalty, evolution, maybe ego, leadership, and the kind of culture really that turns a franchise into a family. Today, I'm joined by longtime NBA insider, former ESPN reporter Israel Gutierrez, host of the new narrative Dub Dynasty. We talk Steph, all the players, but also what it means to play artfully, to lead differently, and to chase legacy with more than just banners in mind. And yeah, we're going to touch on, I ask him, because I'm a Laker fan, I ask him about the LeBron and Luka situation too. There's a lot going on in basketball right now. So again, even if you're not a sports fan, this is just a really interesting conversation. So I encourage you to stick with me. If you are a Warriors fan, you're going to absolutely freaking do back handsprings over this interview. Like this guy knows his stuff, and it's going to be really, really fun. So, all right. Oliver Widger. Okay. This guy, 29, from Oregon. And like I said, just told his corporate life, peace out, I'm gone, to sail solo across the Pacific with zero offshore experience. Like straight up left the dock in Warrenton, Oregon with a secondhand boat, no crew, and this cat named Phoenix. And get this, he's got like this rare spinal condition that could one day, I guess, under certain circumstances, leave him paralyzed. So this was kind of the impetus of him not, quote, waiting around. He's out there doing the damn thing, documenting it all in real time. He's got millions of followers now, and this all just kind of like kicked in. He's going viral. He's awkward. He's honest. And he's just kind of blowing up. And it's not because he's trying to go viral. It's because he's being real in a way that most people aren't. You can track his boat. He's got a GoFundMe you could support. Watch this thing unfold day by day because it's really interesting. And if you're on socials at all, following this guy just makes sense. And it's wild. Storms, squalls. I didn't even know what a squall was. The quiet moments and all these little windows into the headspace of a guy just chasing something bigger than fear. And he said he's been more scared at times on this trip than he ever has in his life. He got caught in the compartment under his boat while it's in the middle of the ocean. It's not just a sailing story. It's a life story. It really is. And maybe that's why it's hitting people the way it is, because so many of us are stuck on shore. Maybe we feel waiting for perfect conditions. But here's this guy with every reason not to go. And he's, boom, gone, going anyway. No safety net, just courage, cat hair, a lot of cat hair, and a wide open sea for this dude. Listen to some of him. So this is just like little pieces of his story, his post. It's really, you just seem like you become friends with the guy.
Weather system behind me, so I gotta try and get ahead of it as much as I can. But then I think I'll have like 6 to 8 foot seas pretty much for the rest of the way. So, but yeah, we're back. We're back. We're back in business, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Already saying we're going pretty quick too right now, as it is. So, yeah, I got to get this boat in ship shape. Otherwise, things are just gonna go flying everywhere. But yeah. But yeah, that's super cool. Hello. So I've not been posting that much of my stories today. I know my stories they're a big hit.
His laugh is so good.
Funny. I don't think I've ever done the stories correctly. I don't know how people do. I don't know if I've ever watched. I never watch anyone's stories, but I've never thought I'd done stories correctly.
And he's just so
like
real.
Instagram stories and TikTok stories, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of always just posted on my stories.
And he's kind of awkward.
And yeah, a lot of you guys watch him, which is really cool.
He does this little nervous laugh after a lot of sentences too. You'll hear it.
So we're changing the game on how stories work. I just like the unedited. It's only a minute long, which kind of sucks, but I like the unedited, like just talk and post. But I came in here with intention to say something, but I've lost it, and we are now out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves another.
That is him.
Sunset.
Hold on, turn it down for a second. That is literally him in a nutshell. Oliver, he's just great.
And I saw the fly. It tried to come. The fly hit me.
Oh, he found a fly. That's right. Named it Wilson, then changed the name to Fly, and he loves this fly.
Wilson to Fly.
Yeah,
I
listen.
think the name is going to be Fly. Actually, I think that's a suitable name. I think that's the name. We're going to call it. The new name is Fly. Everybody. And
he's looking for the fly right now.
Yeah.
Just looking around with his headlamp.
I'm just waiting for it to pop up again.
And this is
Tried
what
to get out.
he couldn't believe that this fly is still in there with him. There's the cat.
He's my girl.
And you know, when you're in the middle of the ocean, this fly that's been in your boat for a couple of days, it could have flown out. So he's almost gotten attached to this fly in a little way. You know what I mean? Just him and this little cat.
All right, yeah, I think
so. Anyways, you just got to check him out. It's really good. I love following him. We're about 14 days in to his journey, maybe 12 or 13. Somewhere, we're about 2 weeks in, right? And he's got about another 11 or 12 to go. So he's right around halfway. But I got all the links in the show notes. You want to check him out? You can see where he is in the ocean. You can see where direction he's in. It's funny. You look at the line of him going from Oregon to Hawaii. And there's 2 ways to do it. I kind of Googled this and I started reading some articles. And I have no knowledge about like sailboats or, marine anything, right? So you could, if you're going to go to Hawaii from Oregon, you either go straight out and then down, or you go down and then left. The middle part, there's a lot of waters in there that you don't necessarily want to go into, not because they're too alive, but they might not propel you. So in the sailboat, you're counting so much on, I guess, catching the not just the winds, but the currents and all this stuff. I don't know. So anyways, you either go right and down or down and left. So he chose down and left, and you could see the way he's going. You're like, well, it's not quite the line that you see like on all the maritime websites when they're saying, hey, this is how you would do this trip. But then you zoom in, and you zoom into this line that looks like it's going down and scooping right, but you zoom in and you see the actual turns that the boat's making. So if it like drifts left and then goes straight, then drifts, and all these little zigzags, you're like, oh my gosh, this is sailing must be certainly tough, but this is why it takes so long. Like for half the day one time, he's going in the wrong direction. You know, I mean, God bless. This guy's been doing it, not that long, but he's my hero. This guy's a hero. He's an inspiration in a lot of ways for a lot of people, in a lot of different ways. You could write your own inspo as to why he inspires you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this vague, broad stroke inspirato that he's got, and he's just infecting millions with his just charm and good personality and his willingness to just send it. This guy, Oliver. All right. Fair. What do you say to someone on a boat? Not fair skies. That's for a plane, right? Fair winds? I don't know. Best of luck, my man. God bless you. Can't wait to see the story and the post and like the TV crew that's waiting for him. I mean, if he's this popular in 12 days, imagine when he gets, like the whole country is going to be rallying for Oliver to make his way. This is going to catch on even more, I think. He's already got millions of followers watching him now. Sailing with Phoenix. All right, good stuff. Let's thank our friends at Dow before we chat with Izzy. DowVineyards.com. Dow just dropped something kind of cool. It's called the Taste of Luxury. Tiny vials, big flavor. You get to sample all of Dow's, or any of Dow's, it's up to you how many you want, of their top tier wines like Patrimony, Soul of a Lion, in these sleek 100 ml pours. So while it's great, yes, to have Dow come to you, but why not you go to Dow? We're right here. It's beautiful. DowVineyards.com. Do a tasting. Eat some pizza. Have a meze plate. Have some, their food is so good there. The views are insane. People are great. Wines, obviously. Check out DowVineyards.com.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, today my guest isn't just a sports guy, he's a storyteller. Israel Gutierrez covered the NBA for ESPN, the Miami Herald, and Palm Beach Post before joining Meadowlark Media to host Dub Dynasty, the show that unpacks one of the most fascinating dynasties in modern sports, and that is the Golden State Warriors. But this show, it's not just about the wins, it's about the wounds, the weirdness, and the why behind what made this team feel more like a vibe than a roster. And whether you're a basketball junkie or someone who's just interested in greatness, the conversation's going to be good. And if you are a big sports fan, we don't do a lot of whole sports here. But as the NBA playoffs are heating up, starting to kind of, peek into them a little bit more. And then, of course, so many Warriors fans in SoCal. Israel Gutierrez is Up and Adam. Can I call you Izzy, man? Do you go by Izzy?
Yeah, Izzy's great, Adam. How are you?
It's really nice to chat with you, and I hope everything's...
Which part of California are you?
San Luis Obispo, right between the Bay and LA.
Great, okay.
Are you familiar with San Luis?
Not familiar with it, but I've done the Highway 1 drive both ways. So
cool.
I've probably driven by it.
Yeah, for sure. We're like wine country, Madonna Inn, Pismo Beach, Paso wine country. Yeah, it's beautiful here. And it's this interesting mix. Like when I first moved here in 2003, a lot of Laker fans, then the Kings got good for a second. A lot of fair weather, kind of like where things are blowing. Sure. So you'll have your Dodgers and Laker fans. You'll definitely have your Giants fans and Kings fans for a while. No one's a Kings fan anymore. It's all it's all Warriors or LA Lakers, so you get it. But California fans,
the occasional old like Jason Williams jersey, maybe, but not
right.
Really
Yeah. When you sat down to unpack the Warriors story, not just the wins, but really the wounds too. What was the first truth that you uncovered that might have even surprised you?
I've actually mentioned it a couple of times today, and it is probably the thing that made me a little surprised was where Del Curry didn't want his son to be drafted by the Warriors. He didn't want Steph to come to Golden State. And when you think about the history of the organization, why would you blame him, right? Like, I think whether or not he saw something great in Steph that the rest of us maybe were only starting to see, or if it was just a matter of, man, I would love to give my son, who maybe doesn't have all the physical traits that these other NBA players, the best possible chance to succeed. And I don't know if that could happen in this organization that hasn't won anything in 40 years. And every time something good happens to it, they seem to break it apart within one or 2 years. And, Nelly's still there, so it might happen again. And so I think that part to me was it made total sense, but it was one of those where it's just like, oh yeah, because even in my lifetime of covering the NBA, like the Warriors are the team, the Run TMC Warriors are the team that made me fall in love with basketball when I was, 12, 13 years old. But, even I, covering the team over the years, realized that there's just not a whole lot of relevance sticking in Golden State. And so it was pretty interesting to learn. There's a few other things, I didn't realize. I mean, why would anybody realize this? But, David Lee buying 37 bottles of vodka after Klay Thompson scored 37 in a quarter. Obviously, they didn't drink it all, but it's a hell of a flex when you can just order that much just to celebrate. Right. You're like, nah, just put it away. We'll be back some other time.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, where are you from originally?
Technically, I was born in New York, but I was raised in South Florida since I was 2 years old. So, we had an NBA team in the late 80s in the Miami Heat. But when I was, sort of becoming an NBA fan,
they weren't
the expansion team wasn't really a great team to follow.
Yeah.
And so, I had to find my other teams, and Golden State was right away the favorite.
With the Warriors navigating the playoffs without Steph Curry, at least for a while, how does this run compare to their other previous championship journeys?
This one, I feel like it's sort of a version of the 2022 one, just because, it's very obviously Steph centered. I think Steve Kerr, I don't even think I've used this clip yet, but Steve Kerr called that 22 championship Steph Karma. And I still think that Steph Karma is still going. Like, I think the type of person that he is, combined with the type of ability he still has, not just makes it possible for him to win at the highest level because they're so familiar with how it's done, but it makes other people really want to do it more for him than ever. Because I'm not sure about you, Adam, but like if he wins 5, if he wins 6, like you don't just think about it in terms of the number of rings. You think about it in the different versions of the team he did it. And I think there's a measure of respect or added respect that comes with doing it with the same coach the whole time. Mm-hmm. Never really rocking the boat, always maintaining, the leadership role and doing it in different ways, maybe not being as more vocal now than he was in the past, but he's just such a unique figure. And so, I think he's got a couple more runs at this. But I think this one in particular, if he can, come back from this hamstring injury healthy and not really fearful of it, coming up again, I think this is a team that right there with the Nuggets really feels like, hey, if we've got this, if we've got our roster together, we feel like we can beat anybody.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping us. You're right.
And I think this team, like I said, it depends on the hamstring injury, but there's nothing really keeping this team from winning at all.
I imagine you started with like a blueprint, but when the human side hit, I'm curious like what shifted for you in how this story had to be told. Like when you were first building out Dub Dynasty, what kind of story were you chasing? And then how did it shift once you got into the locker rooms, the personal stuff?
Yeah, it's funny because there was so much, right? Like it's different. I did a podcast, 4 Years of Heat, very similar to this, just on the 4 years that LeBron was in Miami. And it was, in terms of how much there was to cover, it was a good amount for about, 9-10 episodes. This one, I think you could write 30 episodes because it's just been so long and there's so many, details and everything else. But the human part about it is the part that I think you're right about, that doesn't really, you almost have to be reminded of that, right? Everything from, there were people who really were fans of Mark Jackson and were just like, hey, wait a second. Why are we changing everything right now? We just had 2 straight years in the playoffs. The Warriors don't normally do that. What's going on? And then realizing, oh, wow, okay, that was a great move. So the story I was chasing was basically trying to retell the story with as much little details in there as possible that maybe you didn't know, but mostly, again, just not skipping over any parts because, and this is what's been wild to me being in this, industry for 25 years and recognizing, oh yeah, there are younger people, or maybe there are people who, aren't as attached or, know as much as you do, that, yeah, you can fill them in on all these gaps and it will just be like, oh, wow, this is informative. This is good to know. But then, yeah, going in and just recognizing some of the more human details, even the Draymond Green of it all, right? Him and just how people really like him. You know, people like enjoy his company. It's just his personality, his way of playing just requires a little bit of, you know, that walking on the edge. Or, you know, Klay Thompson, for example, like not really remembering exactly how much of, I wouldn't say an introvert he was, but, you know, the type of attention this team got wasn't really the type of attention he would want necessarily. You know, really the Kevin Durant situation is just so, like, in terms of amateur psychiatry, so complicated, but also so fun to sort of dissect. But also that part is very much real about just how human he is. And like, he's almost a victim of his own talent, where he's so good that the Warriors didn't have to be as complicated. You can just give him the ball and let him get to work. But when that doesn't work, it makes it seem like, oh, Kevin Durant's Warriors are different than the other Warriors. And it's just like, well, that's not fair.
Right.
Like, he's so good. Why are we doing this to him? And I think with the amount of spotlight that was on that team and with the amount of attention that was on that team, you just kind of forget sometimes that, you know, again, these guys are human and you have to pull back a little bit. And like the fact that he had to turn to a burner account to defend himself just goes to show you that, like, man, and that's something obviously people mocked, but it's like, wow, like it's a very sensitive subject for these guys, and they are human beings.
You know, they've got banners, sure, but what did this team teach you about the stuff that doesn't hang in the rafters? Like, we talk a lot about legacy in sports, but what's the thing that the Warriors really showed you about legacy that had nothing to do with rings?
They really trusted players. And I think, you know, when the new ownership came in, Joe Lacob and those guys, they really wanted to mesh the basketball side with the business side. And however one could help the other, however one could utilize the other, however one could just complement the other, they would make sure to do. And a lot of that comes with not just getting player input, but trusting the players that, you know, their best interest is at heart for everybody. And so their input should really matter. And little things like, you know, once a year, having a friend be able to come on the team plane or something like that, maybe twice a year, on road trips for any player. I hadn't heard about that in other organizations. You know, having the family have their own private plane during the playoffs. I hadn't heard of that in any other organization. And, you know, coming from Miami and being around the almost military type of approach from the Miami Heat and how much that is often lauded. And, you know, not to say that they don't respect their families. You know, it's a very family-based organization as well. It's just a different feel to it. And so I would say that probably is what, you know, and this is, I'm 100% a supporter of this, that like authenticity and genuine, you know, approach and being your true self at all times is what's going to get the best out of any situation. And I think the Warriors allow authenticity from their players. I think they allow, you know, a vulnerability from their players, and they will be protected. And I think, you know, Draymond's probably a great example of that. Like, I would say after he got suspended in that little squabble with Kevin Durant was probably when he felt the most outside of the group and felt like, I probably didn't deserve that. But outside of that, the fact that he has been able to be a welcomed, you know, embraced part of this family when he can be pretty difficult to deal with, I think just goes to show you how great, you know, how much they put people first and how great of an impact that's had on the organization.
Is there a mystery about this league that still kind of keeps you up a little? Like, from your ESPN days to now, what's like the one question you still haven't found the answer to in covering the NBA?
Whew. Well, this isn't really the answer that you're looking for. This is a little bit of a joke, but I do think that there's nothing in the rules verbatim that says that you can't jump forward and just at the free throw line and basically just make a running, floating layup as long as you don't touch the ground before it goes through the rim. That's not the question that you're asking for. I understand it. But I'm telling you, there's nothing in the rules that say, hey, if I just take one running jump, and make sure I take off behind that free throw line. As long as I release the ball and it goes through the rim before I land, that should be a legal free throw. But
That's so
outside
funny.
of that, I would say, what do I? That's a great question.
But even like taking that one step further, like isn't it surprising that you don't see like on a fast break somebody leave from the 3-point line and almost do like an elongated finger roll that counts as 3?
Yeah, and in fact, you know what would have been a great time to do that was Jimmy Butler missed that pull-up 3 against the Celtics that would have sent them, I think, to the finals. And if he would have just taken off on one leg and essentially done like a finger roll from just in front of the free throw line, that's 3 points, baby.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not 100% sure. Like, there's always a mystery of just like why certain organizations are able to get the best out of a player, why some players become stars and some players like waste their talent. I think of guys like, not a waste of talent, but a guy like Gerald Green, who had athletically just limitless ability. And what is it about him, his approach, the teams that he's been with? What is it that wouldn't allow him to be just, this type of star that his physical ability allowed him to? And I know there's probably a lot of easy answers where, hey, maybe people just don't work as hard. Maybe people find, getting there as the destination. And if they show off a few dunks, they're happy. But, I've always thought that you can convince somebody, hey, you've got a lot of talent here. Like, let's get the most out of it. And so that's always been kind of a head scratcher for me. But it's such a wild league. Like I think of a man and Asar Thompson who are from the Bay Area. And, I've been thinking about this for a while because them and their dad, like, they worked so hard when they were kids. They had this dream to come up and be in the NBA. And, there's all this stuff about manifesting and speaking things into reality. But I actually believe if you believe in something enough, work at something hard enough, there's something inside your brain that just like maximizes, maybe it grows itself, but it maximizes your ability and your potential as a human being. And I think, because for example, like that Thompson family, there's nobody I don't think taller than 6'1", 6'2" in that family, but yet the twins are, 6'8", 6'9", and crazy athletes. And so, I think there's just a lot to that. And yeah.
Before I sneak in a couple questions about the Lakers and what could be going on with them in years to come, the final question on the Warriors, though, really, they weren't just a team. They're like this vibe. And I'm curious to you, when did they stop playing basketball and start like playing art? At what point did it go from hardwood to like poetry in motion, where even their misses still feel like brushstrokes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that happened early on. Like, I think that was, pretty much when Steve Kerr got there, because it, like I said, the sharing of the basketball, that was somewhere between the triangle and the sort of a free or Greg Popovich approach. It was somewhere in between. They didn't want to really take the ball out of Steph Curry's hands, but they also knew that, defenses are going to flip out if they have to worry about him when he's off the ball as well. So I think that's when that started. And I think you saw there were certain times like whether it be a playoff run or whether it be, a stretch of the regular season where they were missing somebody and they just brought back that, that style of game where it's just like, man, you just need one. You don't need both the Splash Brothers. That's just an unfair luxury. If you have one of those guys floating around, you're good. And so I would say, right around that time, because regardless of who was playing out there, as long as they had one or two of those pieces, Clay, Draymond, Steph, they would be able to run that stuff almost like muscle memory. And I don't think, outside of those late Spurs, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker group, like I don't think there's anybody in the league consistently playing that well, that type of on a string basketball. So that stuff, it takes a while to develop. It just so happened that this group developed it pretty quickly under Steve Kerr and have just had it basically since then. Let's
see if we can fit in one LeBron, one Luka question. My Lakers exit early. Obviously the whispers start. Is this the last dance for LeBron? What's your gut telling you? Exit, extension, evolution. There's talk he might be waiting for Bryce now, not just Bronny. Do you think LeBron's legacy gains anything by holding out for the kids? And is he just staying too long? Is he kind of holding the Lakers back in a way?
I would say the holding of the Lakers back is the only possible negative that you can take from anything LeBron does from here on out. A little bit the way people thought maybe, the Kobe contract down the stretch, limited what they could do. So, but anything else, whether it be playing with another son or whether it be, just putting up more ridiculous numbers that nobody's going to surpass or, the oldest player to do such and such. All that stuff, I think, is just going to be piling on. Like, he's already burst through his ceiling, and there's really nothing else you can do outside of win more championships to put together a resume for a legacy, right? You're just, like I said, you're just piling on at this point. But there is that question of ego versus, what's best for the team. And say what, you will about LeBron. You can take it as a knock, if you will. He hasn't had to pull back. He's had to adjust his game a little bit over the years. He's not as athletic, but essentially pretty similar. And so with a little bit more outside shooting, but he hasn't had to pull back in terms of responsibility. And so if he did do that, if he was a team's, say, third option, like what would that look like? How much would he have to make in order to make that, viable for the team to build around him as a third option? I mean, these days, third options are pretty much maxed out anyway, so it might not even be a money situation. It might just be of, who else you put around him. I think that's the probably biggest hurdle he'd have to go through mentally. And, it is the, you could say, I don't think he had anything to do with this Luka trade. So you could say that he didn't have the foresight, obviously, to say what it would look like to have such a ball dominant player next to him at this stage in his career.
Right.
But why would he? Because he didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's going to be tricky to deal with LeBron here because, I've said this before, it's clearly not his team anymore.
Right.
The Lakers front office have, gotten, I would say, a good amount out of the LeBron experience now, but they have to transition out of it. This might be the best possible star with which to do that. So it really is just a matter of sort of massaging LeBron's ego and seeing if winning is more important to him at this stage than, being just the right option for just the right team.
Yeah, he is such a baby, for a Laker fan. But a lot of us don't even really like him. But, again, he's LeBron. So, mad respect. Finally, give me 30 seconds on Luka. He's playing like he's been in the league for 100 years with his body of a kid, soul of a vet. Are we watching the next big singular force in the league? Too early to tell. And what does Luka's Rice say about the kind of superstars we want now versus the polished icons of the past? He's also got some places to improve. Thoughts?
I think it's too early to tell. I think for all the crap he gets, that Nico Harrison has a point. I'm not saying I would have traded him. I'm saying he has a point in terms of, yes, like you just mentioned, we've seen our elites be in better condition, have, just look better than this. But we've also seen, players come to this realization at their own pace. And maybe it takes this to shake Luka a little bit. Maybe it takes being in LA where everybody else seems to be fit.
Right. It didn't help Shaq though, but
no, not Shaq. Yeah. But nobody else is as tall as he was.
Right.
Yeah. I think that Luka is plenty, like, even if this is the version of Luka that you get, yes, you can win a championship with him. It would have to be just the right environment, just the right mixture of players. But I think he can do that. I do believe he will. I don't know if it's this offseason. I don't know if it's, one or two more. But I do believe if he doesn't win a championship in the next year or two, that will be the final straw, because I do believe he cares about legacy here. I do believe he has the built-in excuse now of, I was mistreated, I had to change teams, and now I can sulk a little bit. So it might not be automatic. It might not be immediate this year to next year, but I think he's got that in him. And I think he knows it's necessary, because every year that he ends the season, like, they should just put together the tape. Forget saying, JJ Redick, forget saying, you got to get in championship shape, as if, that's the code that Luka never heard that's going to unlock him. Maybe just put together a video of him and how he looks ending a season every year, holding his back, limping, red in the face, complaining. Like, put that together for him and see if he's not just embarrassed by it.
Great point. Thoughtful stuff. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Links in the show notes to about everything Dub Dynasty. Izzy, man, this has been great. Thank you so much for being Up and Adam, dude.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
All right, thanks to Izzy. Links in the show notes. Also, I don't know if I said it earlier, but all the links to, we're talking about Oliver Widger sailing with Phoenix, all his links. You want to follow him on socials, but literally follow his boat. You can, all those links are right there, including an article or two. So you can check all them links in the show notes for Oliver as well as Izzy. And thanks, Izzy, for being up and at 'em, man. I want to thank our friends at Tin City Distillery. If you know me, you know I love these guys. I even got my own private barrel with them. And you can also. Their private barrel club literally lets you blend your own whiskey, taste it with the team, and then walk away with a couple dozen bottles of something that no one else has. It's totally custom. You get to customize the barrel head, get to go visit your booze when you go up there. You'll save 15% off everything you get there. It's a lot of deals. Become part of their private barrel club. It's like VIP access to the distillery. TinCityDistillery.com. If you see me up there, I'm happy to taste my barrel with you. But don't go telling Patrick, oh, he said I could taste it. No, I got to be there, bro. I'm going to come up there. Patrick's going to serve half my barrel. It's going to be gone. All right, don't forget AdamOnTiel.com. Tickets to Wine Fest. It's this weekend. I can't believe it. It's going to be so much fun. What a week. Thursday, the Austin Hope Golf Tournament. Friday, Paired Paso. All kinds of stuff. Want to thank our friends at Moonshiner Collective. Oh, saw Dan in this acoustic situation at Libertine. Libertine did some rearranging there downtown, and they got this stage situation. It's legit. Looks great. Really, really cool what they've done there. I know Slow Comedy Fest used that stage a lot. Just a really good setup. Anyways, Dan sounded incredible. What a show. It was like acoustic with the keys and the guitar. It was really, really good. So good job, Dan. Moonshiner Collective. Check them out wherever you get your listen to Moonshiner Collective. That song is called Original Music Start Again, and you'll find it wherever you stream your music. Also, moonshinercollective.com. Thanks to you for rating, reviewing, subscribing to the podcast where you listen to it, and honestly, just word of mouth, sharing with a friend. Tell one person about this podcast today, and we'll watch what happens. Just one. Thank you so much. Till tomorrow, I'm Adam Montiel. Appreciate you being up and at 'em.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again. Let's start again.